I'm the bad guy. I'm the, I'm the, I'm the bad. I'm
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Across the Gridiron. It was an incredible Thanksgiving weekend of action in the NFL, from playoff confirmations to botched clock managements, and even head coach sackings being just some of the weekend's talking points. I'm Matt, and I'm joined as always to break this down with your friend and mine, Eddie. Eddie, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic, Matt. What a great weekend. And listen, we've got quite a lot of things to get into, guys. So you want to stick around for all the segments, and don't forget to like and subscribe, to the channel. And we really appreciate you guys for all your love as well. But Matt, whoa, what a weekend. What a weekend.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we go into that, for those who are new to the channel, what we're going to do today is we're going to break down some of these key talking points of the week. We're going to dive deeper into the playoff picture with our segment touchdown or turnover. We're going to give our pick, sorry, for week 14, as well as updating the leaderboard from last week. And if you're watching this on YouTube, there will be 4 separate videos, but you can also now catch us as a single audio podcast, which we're all very, very excited about. Isn't that right, Eddie?
Absolutely, we're excited, and we're really, loving the fact that we can bring you this in different forms, right? Wherever you get your podcast in, you'll be able to get, this as well. So absolutely excited about that.
Absolutely. And
the,
absolutely. And just one more little thing before we get into it. One important milestone, which you should be very proud of, Eddie. We are now have over 10,000 subscribers to the channel, which is pretty amazing. And Eddie, I've got to say congratulations to you, man. You've got us to this point. So, you must be pleased with that milestone.
Absolutely, but I've got to give it back to all the people who have been supporting us right from the jump, right? I see you guys, watching the videos, making the comments, really appreciate it. And this is also for you guys too as well, because we're building something here in the United Kingdom, NFL in the United Kingdom.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, right, before we dive into it, let's look and go through some of the key highlights for week 13. So let's start in the AFC. The Kansas City Chiefs secured their playoff place with victory in a surprisingly tight game against the Las Vegas Raiders, while the Bills did the same with a comfortable win over a very forlorn-looking San Francisco 49ers, who also lost Christian McCaffrey for the rest of the season, I believe.
Yeah.
Also in the AFC, the Steelers solidified their status as the third seed in the AFC with a rip-roaring 44-38 victory over the Bengals, whilst the Chargers and the Broncos both won their matches against the Saints and the Browns respectively to make it 3 teams in the AFC West in the playoff positions. Also in the AFC, a gutsy final minute 2-point conversion gave the Indianapolis Colts a 25-24 victory over the New England Patriots, keeping their playoff hopes alive, but maybe just barely. Over to the NFC, both the Lions and the Eagles virtually clinched seeds 1 and 2 with victories, with the Lions' 23-22 victory over the Bears costing Matt Eberflus his job, thanks in no small part to some disastrous clock management. The NFC North continues to look strong as the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings join the Lions by picking up important wins, whilst the Cowboys, yes, those Dallas Cowboys, actually won their second game in a row as Cooper Rush led the team to a 27-20 victory over the mighty New York Giants. At least that's what it says in my script. Eddie must have written that bit in there as well.
Super Bowl, here we come.
Absolutely. So they were the highlights of a jam-packed Thanksgiving weekend. So let's move on now to our first topic, and I think what we have to start with, probably the biggest news of the week coming out of Thanksgiving weekend, was the firing of Chicago Bears head coach Matt Eberflus, and that really came from this botched clock management. So yeah, he becomes the first Chicago Bears head coach to be fired in the middle of the season in the franchise's 105-year history, which is pretty spectacular. Look, this season for the Bears just hasn't panned out the way the organization expected, has it, Eddie? especially after getting Caleb Williams as number one. You know, this firing became a matter of when and not if, and that clock management and fiasco at the end was kind of final nail in the coffin. The writing's pretty much been on the wall, hasn't it?
It has been on the wall. It's been written in bold letters for a long time,
Mm.
and everyone's been watching and just thinking, what is going on here. But guys, if you miss that game, every now and then in the NFL, something happens that makes it look like it's scripted, right? You hear people talk about, like this NFL is scripted. How does the Kansas City, always keep winning and all of that? And we'll talk about that later. But listen, this game was inexplicable in terms of the things that happened. For those of you who didn't watch it out, let me just remind you of what happened. The Chicago Bulls Bears came into this game. This is a division game, right, of two NFC North teams. And typically you expect division games to be very fiercely contested. And in the first half, it was anything but that. The Bears were down 16 to nothing. They could only get two first downs in that half. So you're thinking, you've seen what the Lions have been doing. They've been smacking people down, literally, 40s and 50s, and you're thinking, this could get silly, right? This could absolutely get silly. So you go grab your drink, if you're a Bears fan, you're trembling, thinking, the worst is to come. But it's something that Keller Williams has been doing in the last couple of games. Somehow he wakes up in the second half and has a much better performance. So second half comes and it's matching up and down the field. Keenan Allen is getting passes. They're making, strides in the half. And then you're thinking, oh, could they come back beyond? Have the Bears got the big mo, as in big momentum, right? Could they actually inflict, a very, very devastating loss on the Lions? And it looked that way. 2 minutes drill towards the end of the half. Now, 2 minutes drill, these teams practice this time and time again. Everyone knows what they're supposed to do. You know that if you catch the ball, you look for the sidelines. You want to run out, right? If you've got timeouts, you want to cut it, right? You want to get your timeouts in. So 2 minutes drill, everything is going well. Second and 20, right? Keller Williams gets the ball. Sack by Smith. You're thinking, ooh, okay, 6 yard loss. At that point, you're supposed to hit the timeout, right? But no one does anything. It was almost as if it was a movie of Alice in Wonderland. Everyone is like really confused about what's going on. The coach on the sideline was looking very confused. The quarterback, I mean, listen, right? He's a rookie quarterback, but something must have happened. 32 seconds is enough to at least run at least two plays. And guess what?
Hmm.
Left it all the way to the 7 seconds. Now, what happened in that game was like a truth serum because after the game, all the players were all telling the truth. Everyone was like, talking about the game. They had it all from the coach. The explanation from the coach was very, very terrible. I think
Yeah.
it was clear that he felt like a deer in headlights, and you wouldn't say that for an NFL coach, someone who has coached lots of games. It was a disastrous performance all around. Now, typically, in that point in the game, the only two people that can call a timeout, right? It's either the coach or the quarterback. And so this is all on the coach. Not calling that
Definitely.
timeout at that time was devastating. Listen, Caleb Williams, I think, will go on, to be a decent quarterback. I think there are signs that, he will be. But I think this is one of those sort of games that's going to live long in his memory. And he'll be, well, I think he will learn from it. But the Chicago Bears are an absolute mess, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, going back to Caleb Williams, it's a learning experience for him, right? They're in a team, losing season, not making the playoffs. You've you've got to take these on the chin, and you've
Yeah,
got to say, look, you don't lose, you learn,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I don't put this down on him. You have to, unfortunately, put it squarely on the head coach. It's you know, given where the Bears were, you know, they've got 32 seconds to go, and they've got one timeout, and they're
Timeout.
on.
He took the timeout home. Took it.
Yeah,
He's
I
taking
mean,
the timeout
they
home.
they should easily have been able to drive that down and give themselves an opportunity for a field goal to tie that game. And as it turned out, you know, Eberflus shoulda, woulda, coulda. He should have taken control of that game. He should have been calling that timeout. And I think it's just that it's a sad end for him. They've since they've been head coach for 3 years, he's had multiple 6-game losing streaks, which they're on that at the moment. You know, he has a overall in his stretch as head coach, he's 14 and 32 recorded across 3 seasons.
Okay.
You talk about these divisional games being tight, and he's 2 and 13 in the AFC, in the NFC, right? That's just not good enough. So the writing was on the wall. I feel sorry for him, but for the Bears organization, the big question is, what's next? Not boy, what?
Um, I mean, I think about the Bears organization, and you've got a quarterback that potentially, could be your quarterback for the future, right? You've got a quarterback that potentially needs a coach that is very good with quarterbacks, right? A coach
Absolutely.
that can actually help your quarterback, grow. We look at Denver Broncos and we see what's happening with Bo Nix, right? Sean Payton is, herald as a quarterback whisperer. You need someone like that, but the problem is, where are you going to get people like that? Now, people are talking about Bill Belichick, being in the running. You might want to go to the college and look for a coach as well. But the owner was talking about a coach that is coming in who understand what it is to win titles. There are not many of those around, right now in the NFL. I think pretty much most coaches that can win a title are tied up in a team. So I think if I were the Bears, right, I would probably, give it to the coordinators right now because the season is pretty much lost, right? And then you'd have a proper search, for a coach in the off season, right? You start talking to people, seeing whether you can go to, maybe, go to the Eagles, maybe Kellen Moore, he might be someone that you might think about, go to the 49ers, right? You might want to go get, their coordinators there. You've seen, D'Amico Ryans, come out, from the 49ers and actually do a good job with the Texans. But you do need to take your time and you need to think about Caleb Williams, whatever decision they make.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, he is the franchise quarterback, so you need to have a coach that's going to play to his
Right.
strengths, right? And whether that is, as I said, an experienced winning coach, as I said, you've got the Belichick, you've got that man in the hoodie sitting
Yeah.
there waiting for his next job. You've got Pete Carroll, he's taken teams to Super Bowl. It's whether you go for this experienced head coach or you go, as you said, for the more expensive coordinator approach. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. The CEO and the president, Kevin Warren's given a list of what he wants for his next head coach. High standards, tough, demanding, bright. Jesus Christ, he may as well. He should hire you, I suppose. He's given all those descriptions, but anyway, so let's move on to the next thing we wanted to talk about. Something you particularly wanted to talk about today was the Texans and the Jags. More specifically, the sort let's call it the cheap shot, the heavy hit
Yeah.
against Trevor Lawrence. So first of all, the Texans did win this. It was a gritty match. They won it 2017.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, it's a shot on Trevor Lawrence that's becoming the the big talking point. Now, where do you sit on this? Because you've got some people think bang out of order, it's wrong, it's dirty, it's reckless. You've got people going out to potentially try and hurt your opponent's star player, or you've got people saying, "No, it's just good old-fashioned football. Hit them hard, hit them early, let them know you're there." But yeah, I have my opinion on it. But where do you sit on it?
Listen, right, we grew up on football here in the United Kingdom, and one of the things that is very, very common in the game, when you go on the pitch is that, the striker or defender, they want to lay the first shot, right? You want to make them know that you're there, whether it's a crunchy tackle, the crowd, gets up, get excited about the game. And you don't want to take the passion away from the game. I think that's the first thing to say. So I'm for, those hard-hitting tackles, those, rising up the temperature in the game. But I think what happened in this game, for me, I think was just out of order, right?
Oh, yeah.
Aziz, this is the equivalent of what we call a two-footed tackle, right? It could damage the player significantly. Trevor Lawrence is just coming back from an injury, right? So, and the quarterback, I know people are talking about the slide, right? And usually quarterbacks are told to slide with their legs forward,
Mhm.
right? To protect themselves. Now, when the opposing player is also putting his head down, to also, make a collision tackle, I think for me it's out of order. And what I'm very disappointed about is the fact that this player has a previous. He's got
Mhm.
a record of making this sort of challenges. And the coach came out, D'Amico Ryans came out, and then he said, defending, everyone stands with Aziz, which is great. You want to stand by your players, difficult moments. But the bit that I didn't like was when he was almost putting it on the quarterback. This is almost like you saying to a shop owner that has left his door open and said, well, what did you expect? You left your door open, so I can just walk in, and steal whatever I want. Still breaking the law. It doesn't matter the fact that the quarterback slid, it was still a dangerous tackle that he shouldn't have made. So for me, I'm thinking, well, what is all of that about? Really disappointed it's the Texans. And listen, that game, was decided by 3 points, was decided by a field goal. If Trevor Lawrence was in that game, could that have made a difference? Maybe
Yeah.
it could have added points in the Jaguars. I'm not saying the Jaguars are going to go anywhere, but it could have given them a win.
In a tight game like that, and you lose your starting quarterback, your franchise quarterback, it's going to make a difference because, yeah, let's be honest, the Jaguars stand more chance of winning that game with Trevor Lawrence on the field than they do Mac Jones, right? That goes without saying. You your disappointment in the Texans, I think, is right. The one thing that always annoys me in any sport, is a level of hypocrisy. Because
Mm.
you can guarantee that if that was CJ Stroud being hit like that, I could
Oh,
I guarantee that the Texans will not be saying, "Oh yes, well we stand with that defender. That was a fair tackle." Oh no, they'd be going absolutely ape, right? So it's the level of hypocrisy. Yeah, stand by a play, but at some point, for me, a quarterback is going down. He's sliding down. You do that to protect yourself. He knew he was going down. That for me was a tackle that went out to try and intentionally hurt
yeah.
a player, right? So for me, it was a poor tackle. Will it make much difference this season? No. I think Trevor Lawrence, obviously, he was out the game. I think he officially had a concussion,
He
so I don't
did.
know if he's got to go through protocols. I mean, the Jaguar season is over. That's not how.
Yeah, he's gonna go through protocols. He was carted, away from the game, and then he was out for the rest of the season. The concussion protocol is probably, it might be a stretch, but I mean, the fact that they
Well,
play, in Thanksgiving, it might just mean that he might be able to clear concussion protocol, uh,
mhm.
because typically you're not playing again for at least another 7 or 8 days. But yeah, I mean, we've seen it with tour and concussions, right? You don't want this to now be the story for Trevor Lawrence going forward.
Okay, excellent. Well, I think that brings it. I think that brings us nicely to an end of part one. In part two, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Steelers and the Bengals, and also look at the Eagles and the Ravens. So stay tuned.
I'm the bad guy. I'm the